All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, just to go over, we are a little bit off time, so we're going to adjust just a little bit for us, but we've got some great information coming up next. What we have next is insurance, trip cancel insurance, and tenders and toys. And let me make sure everyone's here. We have Jeff Shaffer, Nadia Bedasse-Francis, and Nancy Poppe. Excellent. If you could make your way to the front, please, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little housekeeping. Everyone should have their phones on silent. Tray tables up. Everyone should be fed, watered. Were everyone good? All right. I'm going to lead the floor to our moderator, Mr. Jeff Shaffer.
Good morning, everyone. So we have lots of questions, I'm sure, about trip cancellation today. I'm going to get started. I'm going to introduce Nadia Bedasse-Francis first. Please, what do you have to say to them?
Well, thank you for having me. I am Nadia Bedasse-Francis with MHG Insurance. Most of you're familiar with the name Clayton Swart. You were probably just with him a couple days ago. Well, he got back and he's not doing so well, so he sends his regards. So yeah, I've been with MHG now for 6 years, and I work alongside Clayton. We are partners in crime. We do trip cancellation and charter liability. A little bit about MHG. We've been in business for over 30 years. We are in the marine space. We do marine insurance. You might know us for our crew benefits. Trip cancellation, charter liability. What you might not know, we also do employee benefits. We have a commercial liability department as well as a cruise division. We have offices throughout worldwide. We are 3 offices. Fort Lauderdale is our headquarters. Our team has grown tremendously. For those of you yacht brokers who've been sending in your requests, you're noticing we're spitting it out really fast. We have somebody that processes your request right away. We're always there to answer questions. We also have a claim specialist, right? Because your client is purchasing this policy, and it's not cheap sometimes. And you want to be sure that if a claim is put in, they're never calling a 1-800 number. They're calling us. They're calling somebody that they know or you know, and we're helping them to process that claim from beginning to end. We're going to talk a little bit more about trip cancellation and charter liability. A quick little thing about trip cancellation, most of you know, but basically your client is going on this wonderful trip. They've spent tons of money. God forbid they cannot go. Well, this is where this insurance comes in. It protects them if there's a cancellation, an interruption, or a delay. It is refundable up to 100% of the insured amount, and charter liability covers for any third-party liability claims. So I will give it back to Jeff.
Thank you, Nadia. So we have Nancy Poppe from Willis, Towers, and Watson. And Nancy, please.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for coming. It's great to see such fantastic turnout. So Willis is an insurance broker, and I've been doing this for 26 years in the large yacht space. We are the brokers for the vessel owners who charter their yachts. And so we're going to hear more about what I think is very important to you all, which is charter cancellation and charter's liability. But from the owner's side, I'm going to just say a few words. So when we're looking at the owner's insurance for charter, the first thing to do is make sure that the insurance covers charter activity, and that's a pretty easy thing to do. However, it needs to be requested. It's not automatically, it doesn't come automatically with policies. The second thing is about how the vessel owner's insurance handles insures charterers. So you can take vessel insurance policies and put them into 2 buckets. The first bucket has the policy language automatically adding any charterer as additional insured. They don't need to be named specifically. The language of the policy automatically covers them. Whether the owner wants that or not, whether the contract calls for it or not. I have all my contracts here with my highlighting ready for questions. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is the opposite. The owner's insurance doesn't cover the charterer at all for liability. And in that case, it needs to be requested if it's required. And so it would have to be added by an endorsement to the policy. Each insurance company's definition of additional insured is different. So you don't always know what you're getting when it says additional insured. There may be limited coverage or may be full coverage. Each company does it different. Just a brief statement about liability insurance in general. You cannot be insured under a policy and make a claim under the same policy. And that's a very general statement, but that means that if the charterer is insured under the vessel owner's policy, he probably can't make a claim for his slip and fall on that same policy. I mean, he can make the claim, of course, but whether the owner has coverage or not is questionable. And there are two schools of thought about that. Many owners that we talk to say, well, that's not what I'm worried about. I don't think the charter is going to, sue me if they slip and fall. I'm more worried about meeting a contractual obligation, meaning a, IYBA charter contract or the AYCA contract obligation. Thank you. And so they're not worried about it, and they'll make sure that the charter is fully insured under the vessel owner's policy. The second school of thought is the owner does not want the charter to have their coverage at all. They don't want to add them, they don't want to agree to that. That's not their choice, because if they've signed a contract for charter that requires it, then they have to, go through with it. So you've got the charter contract with its terms and conditions, and I know all of you are very, very intimately familiar with the terms and conditions of a charter contract, but you have the vessel owner's insurance contract over here, and the two don't speak unless there's a translator in the middle who can get them to speak. So kind of my question to you all, or rhetorical question to you all, is who gets these two to speak? I mean, you're busy with your charter clients, busy, with all the things that go along with a successful charter boat and business, and yet there's some pretty possibly serious legal implications to the two contracts that aren't speaking. And as we like to say, I think everyone's favorite saying these days is, it's all good until it isn't. So who's looking at all this for you, or for your owners, for your clients, for your charterers? In our experience, it's kind of no one. It's great when the owner has a lawyer in their program, involved, in their day-to-day program, because then the lawyers are the ones looking at it, which is fantastic. Otherwise, I would submit to you that it's perhaps the charter manager instigates once a year with the vessel owner and the vessel owner's insurance broker, one time a year, review all the possible charter contracts that could come your way, meaning general forms, the template forms. What does the owner's insurance say and require? And then make a plan for each one as it comes through. Understand who wants what, how to get it done, and then it's done for the entire year. That doesn't happen too often, but I happen to think it's a great idea and would welcome it. So back to you.
Thank you. So, Nadia, I have compiled quite a few questions for you.
I'm
You ready?
excited.
So first off, what is trip cancellation insurance?
So trip cancellation is an insurance that is going to protect your client or you. Maybe you're going on a luxury vacation and you want to take out trip cancellation. There are covered reasons as to why, what would be covered, and those are paid at 100%, and there's 36 of them. You cannot go for any of these reasons. You file a claim and you get that money back. The questions that are coming in still to this day, even though COVID is kind of not a big topic, well, for us it still is. We get a call from a client. One of their first question is, if I get COVID, is that covered? And the answer is absolutely. It's covered like any other illness. Maybe it's not them that gets ill, but it's an immediate family member.
Sure.
Or pet, even. We had a case the other day where they were in the middle of the charter, something happened to the pet, and unfortunately the pet passed away. They had to go back. That insurance our insurance covers that as well. So the point is, your client is spending a lot of money. You want to do your due diligence and make sure they are protected in the event they cannot go, or while they're on that trip, something happens, they put a claim in, and they get their money back. And we're gonna get into the different options, because we don't only have one option, we have two. And I'll talk a little bit more about the two options coming up, but generally speaking, it is coverage for a cancellation or interruption.
And how much does this typically cost for this cancellation insurance?
So it depends on the option that you're looking for, or our core plan, which is the SE plan, and they're both based on age. So we have the SE, which is our core plan, and then we have the LX, which is the cancel for any reason. Our SE plan ranges anywhere from, I'd say, 3 to 8%. Again, it's based on age. So if you're younger, you're going to get the lower end. If you're a little bit older, you're going to get the higher end. Our LX plan, and there are some exclusions on the LX plan depending on the state that you live in it and so forth. But that ranges anywhere from about 8 to as high as 22%.
8 to 22%.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So booking a charter in the Caribbean during hurricane season, it's always been a concern. So would the trip cancellation allow for clients to cancel their charter due to a hurricane?
Absolutely. Hurricane or any natural disaster for that matter, providing it's supposed to take place within 24 hours of whether it's their home destination, whatever state that they live in, or wherever they're going to. So that is one of the covered reasons, and again, is paid 100% up to the insured amount.
Okay, great, good to know. So cancel for any reason coverage, is that still available?
Still available. That is our LX plan. Now,
That's on
if you live in New York, your client lives in New York, unless they have another residential address that they want, they can use, the LX cancel for any reason is not available. Another important thing is we talk about the 20-day sensitive period, right? So that is, as soon as the client puts down that initial deposit, the clock starts that day, not the day after, on the day of the deposit. They have 20 days within that timeline to purchase the plan, and that's when they're able to get the LX. If they wait until the 21st day, the LX is no longer available. They could still buy the SE plan, but they lose the privilege of pre-existing conditions to be covered in the SE. Again, that 20-day, we talk, you know about it, most of you who you work with us. Please encourage your clients to, if they're thinking about trip cancellation, as soon as they put their that initial deposit, we need to be talking about this coverage.
So then what information would you need from the broker to provide, the trip cancellation policy, and then how long does this take?
Sure. So typically, I'm going to get to that question, but typically we send out what we call an intro email, and it has a worksheet. That worksheet will ask a bunch of questions. When are they going? But the main thing we need really is the guest, the charterer and the guest that are going. Ideally would love the dates of birth, but if we don't have it, we'll work with the ages until that, for the quoting process, that is, and at least the residential address for the charterer. We don't necessarily need addresses for all the guests, just for the charterer. Mm-hmm. That's mainly what we need for a quote.
Okay.
And you'll get that back within the same business day.
Okay. And how long would this take, approximately?
Same day.
Same day?
You get it back within the same day.
Great.
Sometimes within an hour, depending on what's going on.
Okay. So one of the questions that we have here is, how do I know which trip cancellation plan is best for my client?
Well, what I say is what is important to your client, right? Are they looking for flexibility? I want to cancel just because I don't feel like I want to go. Or are they truly concerned? Maybe they have a family member that's ill, or they have a work obligation that could potentially come about right when they're going for the trip, which is also a covered reason. So if their concern is would be one of the covered reason, we say you're fine, just go with our core SE plan, which is the cheaper option. But if they want that flexibility and they're in a state like they're not from New York, we say go with the LX option.
Okay. Does the full amount of the charter have to be insured?
Absolutely not, which is one of the that's actually one of the things that sets us apart. We've realized that other insurers, you have to insure the whole thing. With us, it's as little or as much as you want to, up to the charter amount. We even have some clients who might say, for now, I'm just going to insure that initial deposit, and at a later date, I'll add in the rest of the cost, or they might not want to add in the rest of the cost. So there's complete flexibility there.
It's good to know. Okay, and with this next question, my client has to cancel their charter. How do they submit a trip cancellation claim?
So we have an in-house claims specialist, and we wanted to make sure that your client would have a good experience. I mentioned nobody wants to call a 1-800 number. I know I don't. So you're calling somebody that you know, and our claims specialist is going to handhold your client from beginning to end. They call us, they let us know what's going on. She prompts an email with all the documentation to get started. If they don't understand what they're filling out, she walks them through that process, and she does the back and forth with the carrier. If there are any additional information that's required, she goes back to your client. So, and we're always sending updates, so you and your client knows, okay, this claim is being processed, we're still waiting for an answer, whatever it is, you're in the know, and we have somebody who is doing that legwork for you.
Great. So we have some questions on charterer's liability.
All right.
And I'm got to pay attention to the time so I can get over to Nancy. But what is charterer's liability insurance?
So charterer's liability folds right behind the owner's liability, and it covers things like legal liability. You mentioned slip and fall. This would take care of that, or damage to the hull, if that were the case. Even pollution. So it pays right behind the owner's policy, and depending on the contract, some contract might require that they get charterer's liability, but we always say for what you're going to pay, which is insignificant in comparison to millions and millions of dollars, get that charter liability. Our standard limit is $50 million, but if that client needs more, we could also do more.
So is charterer's liability coverage expensive?
Nope.
No.
It typically range
million.
anywhere from 2 to 4% of the charter, and it's a charter fee. We're not including APA or any other service fee, just a charter fee. So anywhere from 2 to 4% is what it's going to cost your client.
Okay. And why should my charter client purchase charterer's liability?
I just mentioned, right? You know, one thing we say is plan for what's not on the itinerary. Nobody plans on one of their guests potentially suing them, or somebody gets ill, or even somebody dies. Now a family member is coming after you, and you have all these legal fees and everything you didn't, you were going on this trip planning on having fun, and now you're faced with all this. This charter liability is really going to come in handy if something like that were to happen.
And can I add to that too?
Sure.
Yes.
What we tell our clients, to our vessel owner clients, we also encourage them to encourage that the charterers purchase separate charterers legal liability, even if their insurance does extend some coverage. For the charterer, as the charterer, you control your destiny, so to speak. You have your own policy in your own name,
Yes.
with your own limit.
Absolutely.
That's just for you. When you're on the owner's insurance, you're sharing the owner's limit, you're sharing the owner's coverage terms. You don't even know what they are most of the time. So that's another reason that we encourage our folks to have their own coverage.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy.
So Nancy, thank you. I'm going to go into some questions we have for you. The first one is coverage for chartering included on every yacht insurance policy?
It is not, no. As I said earlier, you have to, yes, you have to have it added specifically, but it's not a problem to have added.
Okay. When owner's insurance covers a charter, does that include bareboat charter also?
Generally, not, let me back up. No, for true bareboat charters, there's no coverage for true bareboat charters. When their services agreement contracts back the same captain and crew, they don't see that as a bareboat charter, although I understand legally it is one, but from an insurance point of view, they don't see it, as long as the owner's captain and crew are still in control and command.
Yes.
Okay. Is the charterer covered for use of tenders and toys?
Yes, and since that's the title of this, I probably should have at least mentioned it. If the charter is an insured, it would be for the same activities that the owner's insured for, which would be using the tenders, toys, water sports that are, emanating from the boat.
Okay. So if the charter party says the charterer is to be additionally insured on the owner's insurance, is there anything else that we need to do?
Well, yes, because think of me doing this. The charter party says something, but the insurance contract may not. And there's no tie between the two or requirement that the insurance contract, in fact, insurance contracts specifically say we will not agree to any other contract terms and conditions unless we tell you in advance. So you absolutely have to make sure that whatever is said over here in the charter contract gets agreed to over here under the insurance contract. Otherwise, you just have two contracts in existence with no relationship to each other.
Okay. Can the owner's insurer come back against the charterer if they damage the boat?
If the charterer is covered by the owner's insurance, no.
Okay.
If the charter is not covered by the owner's insurance, that's a good question I don't know the answer to. I'll ask my legal friends in the room whether they could or not. Whether they would or not is a different question than whether they could.
Okay.
Quite possibly.
All right. And
Why is Robert Allen Law pointing at Allie Moss?
is there a comment over there? No?
Well, we're going to talk about contracts, charter contracts
No
in the
problem.
next segment, so we'll defer to then.
We have 4 minutes and 37 seconds.
Well, okay. So I'm trying to charter the boat, not manage insurance. Who is supposed to keep track of all this? So
Great question. I don't know. As I mentioned, I think it takes a village, because as the broker, we would be glad to do some of that legwork if we know about it, but we don't always know about it. In fact, we find out that some of our clients, they don't even use standardized contracts. They use something that's completely an amalgamation of others. And as the charter folks, you just want your charter to be successful, but you want your clients to be protected, of course. I mean, nobody wants a problem on the back end. The vessel owner, same thing. They just want to have a good charter program, but they have the most vested interest in making sure things that run smoothly. So I would suggest that it's everyone together as a team working to make sure all angles are thought of.
great, thank you. We have a few minutes left. Anybody have any questions?
Let me get up to you with the microphone. Hang on.
Can you insure somebody?
Speak up just a little.
Sorry. Yep. Can you insure a charterer that's not American? So I had a Canadian client.
For trip cancellation or charter liability?
Either or.
So the easy answer for charter liability is it does not matter. Obviously, they can't be on the OFAC list or anything like that, but they can be Russian providing everything is straight. So that's not a big deal at all. Now for the trip cancellation, the options, the SC, the LX, they are really for US residents. However, typically we don't have an issue with Canadians, and we do have a solution for other countries, the EU. So it won't be this same option that we're talking about, but we do have other solutions that would work for your client.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Great question, thank you. Anyone else?
We have a few minutes.
We have a few minutes. Over here.
Oh, Daphne. Hang on.
Daphne.
So I'm going to ask about an elephant in the room often, and that is, when can a charter client make a claim against the owner's policy where that deductible obviously comes into play, and then does the charter client pay the deductible? Is it on the owner to be responsible for that deductible? Can you just talk about deductibles sort of in general, because it does come up very often to us, I think, as charter managers from charter brokers.
I believe that all of the contracts require the charterer to be responsible for the deductible, right? I mean, I think that's from my recollection of reading them all. So that would be really between the charterer and the owner, because for a claim to be paid, the insurance company is going to pay the owner back or pay for the, the cost of repairs over the deductible. So they're not going to collect the deductible. It's going to be a matter of between them.
So does that take effect whether it's the charterer's, I guess if it's negligence on the charterer, it's not against this policy, am I correct? If it's negligence versus if it's an accident.
You say like for damage to the vessel specifically?
Sure,
yeah.
Or
So
toys or otherwise.
right. Okay. So the vessel owner has their property insurance, and they're going to make a claim under their property insurance, and that's going to be between the insurer and the vessel owner. Period. So whatever happens with the deductible, unfortunately, has to happen at the owner charterer level for them to duke it out as to who's responsible for it, because the insurance company for the owner is just going to pay, here's my $1 million repair bill. Okay, well, I'm going to give you back $900,000 because you had a $100,000 deductible. How you pay that or how you get that $100,000 deductible back, or whether you can, is between the charter. Yeah.
Thanks, perfect.
So that's all the time we have, but Nadia and Nancy, thank you both very much for being here.
And there's a table back there, so if you have additional questions, myself and my colleague Tracy will be there. Grab a brochure, has all our information, and go on our website if you need more information.
Perfect.
Thank you.